going to talk to you for a few minutes now about selecting a good feedlot horse, one that should be suitable for the feedlot, should stay sound and be good for you for a long time. There's really 4 considerations that I think are very important when you go to select a feedlot horse. The first, I would say, is the age of the horse. Most good horses are between 3 to 15 years of age, I feel. That is when they're mature physically, they're mature emotionally, and they can handle stress, they can handle new things, and they've usually seen a few things by the time they're 3 or 4 years old. Horses that are younger than that, maybe 2 years of age, and horses older than that, a lot of times a young horse is not really mature physically, they're not mature mentally, and they can't handle some of the things that they may see in a feedlot with feed trucks, noise, graders, things like that. If another problem with a young horse, a 2-year-old, or sometimes some of your more immature 3-year-olds, is they're not as mature physically, and they can't handle the deep mud, the stress, and riding all day long. You may have a 2-year-old that you can ride for a half hour, an hour, but after that, they're going to get tired physically, and once they get tired physically and stressed, you're going to have more feet and leg problems if you really use a young 2-year-old like that. Many of your 3-year-olds are starting to get more mature, their bones and legs are starting to get more mature, and they can handle the heavy load. Horses over 15 years of age, many of those are still in good shape, and they can be used. They're mature mentally, but many times you can't use them quite as hard as a younger horse. There's a lot of good horses that are 16 to 18, 20, even 22-year-old horses that do work very good in a feedlot, but the consideration is you may not be able to use them all day long. You may be able to use them 1 or 2 hours, especially if the mud is deep, the ground is slick, or you're pulling cattle around, and you may not be able to use them quite as long, and they just don't last quite as long. So ideally, a horse is from 3 to 15 years of age is the ideal age to work really good in a feedlot because they're mature physically and mentally, and they can stand the stress and strain. The second thing, or maybe the most important thing, is their temperament or their disposition. That is probably the most important characteristic. You're going to have lots of different people riding these horses, lots of different people feeding them, saddling them, managing them. So you want a horse that's calm and quiet and cool disposition, because you're going to have, at most feedlots, you're going to have a variety of riders that are going to be riding these. Some are going to be very good riders, and they may be able to keep a horse calm, or they may be able to handle a horse that's just a little jumpy or a little bit nervous. But a lot of times you'll get a feedlot cowboy or a pen rider that hasn't been around horses a lot, and so you want a horse that's cool and calm and a quiet disposition. It's just safer for your riders. The second reason why you want a horse with a nice, quiet, calm disposition is because it keeps the livestock a lot quieter. If you have a horse go in the pen and he's bouncing and jumping around and rearing and dancing sideways, those cattle are going to get nervous and fidgety, and they're going to have more injuries, and you're going to be running cattle through fences. So the quieter the horse is, the quieter it keeps the cattle. So as far as disposition, you want a quiet, calm, cool horse for 2 reasons. One of them is you're going to have a variety of riders riding them, and the other reason, it's going to keep, if you have a calm, quiet horse, it's going to keep the cattle a lot quieter and safer for them in the lot. The third consideration when selecting a feedlot horse is kind of their background or their experience. You want a horse that's been around a little while, seen a few things, and you don't want one that hasn't seen people before. You probably don't want one that hasn't seen cattle before, because they're going to be tense and nervous if they haven't been around feed trucks and cattle and handling and equipment for cleaning lots, because they're going to be able to see this. So you want a horse that's got a nice quiet disposition, but you want one that's been around and has seen a lot of things there. The important thing is you want a horse that has been on some uneven ground. If you want a horse that may have been out in the field, knows how to crawl up and down hills, because in the feedlot there's going to be mounds, you're going to be walking up and down mounds, and a horse that's been on a level ground and good footing all his life is not going to be able to handle himself as well. He's not going to be as sure-footed. He's going to slip and slide when he starts going up these mounds or down these mounds in your feedlot. The other thing about a background is you really want to have a horse that's been on kind of uneven ground, because if you find a horse that's been stalled a lot and never been with other horses, they may not get along with other horses quite as well, because in most of your feedlots they'll have from 2 to 10 horses running together. If a horse has been stalled and always been by himself, he really hasn't developed those social skills to get along with other horses. If he's always been on level, smooth ground in a well-manicured pasture or well-manicured arena, he's also not going to be able to handle the deep ruts and going up and down mounds like a horse that's been used to climbing up and down some hills and being on rough terrain. The final thing we're going to talk about is size and structure of the horse. I think we need a horse that's probably between 14 hands and 15-2. Many times, if a horse is smaller than 14 hands, a lot of your feedlot cowboys are going to be bigger and stouter people. And once you get in a smaller horse that may weigh less than 1,000 pounds and less than 14 hands, they may not be able to stand up, have the endurance and the strength to last for several hours or even all day long. So you need to have a horse that's got some mass and bulk and size. Probably many times you don't want a real big horse. You don't want these 16 and 16 two-hand horses in most cases unless you've got a real big rider. Many times you want a horse that's, like I say, between 14 and 15-2 is probably ideal, because if you tried getting on these horses with these heavy coats, coveralls, it's hard to get on a horse for most people, average size or below, to get on a horse that's much bigger than 15-1 or 15-2, especially if they've got heavy coats, coveralls, jackets, and coats. So you want a horse that's kind of between that 14 and 15-2 hand height, but you want to have good feet and legs. As you look at a horse, you want them to have a big bone, you want them to have a big round foot. The smaller footed horses are not going to be as sure-footed, and they're going to be more apt to go lame if you don't have a big solid foot on them, a big bone, and have feet and legs that stand and straight move. They should stand and move straight, both on the front legs and back legs. Those horses are going to stay a lot more sound, because when you work your horse in a feedlot, you're going to be riding them quite a bit of time, and a horse that may stay sound and solid in a show ring may not be able to stay as sound and solid in a feedlot. So those are the kind of the 4 main things I think we need to cover. Considerations: you need to consider their age, you need to consider their disposition or experience, you need to consider their background or the experience they've had, and then you need to consider their size, their structure, because you want a horse that's going to be big enough and strong enough to handle some of these big, strong feedlot cowboys.